A huge part of the IELTS speaking and writing test is to be able to sound like a native speaker. Now, a lot of people recommend using vocabulary words, phrases, collocations, and idioms that native speakers tend to use. While everything else is fine, a lot of times when we try and incorporate idioms into our speech or writing, it just sounds forced. Well, don't worry, I'm here to help you out with just that. Welcome to today's video. My name is Asmita, your IELTS mentor here at Vedantu, and today I'm going to give you 10 natural sounding idioms for IELTS and also explain to you how you can make any idiom sound natural. It just boils down to how you are using it, where you're incorporating it, and the slight changes that you need to make to it. So let's get started. The first one you've heard a bunch of times. Overused, kind of a cliche, but again, something that is frequently used by native speakers. It's a blessing in disguise. Now, the meaning of this is quite simple. Something good that seemed bad at first. So something that you thought was a negative, bad thing happening to you. And later on, in hindsight, you realize that, okay, maybe it was for the best. So another alternative to this is it was for the best. All right. Now, how can you make a blessing in disguise a natural part of an answer in speaking or writing? Here's an example of that. To be honest, when I failed my university entrance exam, I was devastated. But in hindsight, it was a blessing in disguise because I ended up studying something I'm truly passionate about. Okay, so now here, blessing in disguise doesn't stick out like a sore thumb. It's not like everything that you're saying is leading up to this idiom. A lot of times the problem is you're so focused on using a particular idiom that everything that you say kind of revolves around it. It should be the exact opposite. The idiom should only come in if it really enhances or explains precisely what you're trying to say. It should be mentioned casually. It should not be something that's quoted, okay? And so your tone, your inflection shouldn't change much while using the idiom, and it should not stick out like a sore thumb. Just like the words devastated, hindsight, blessing in disguise is a very natural and easy part of this entire answer, okay? Next, we have break the ice. Again, a very commonly used idiom, but sounds awkward a lot of times that we use it. To initiate conversation or reduce tension, used mostly in context where you're meeting somebody for the first time. So it's always related to those awkward initial interactions, right? So if you've maybe changed schools, changed colleges, gone to a new place, you're trying to make new friends. These are the type of situations in which this synonym would come in handy. So when you're talking about a time where perhaps you moved from one place to another because your parents got transferred and then you suddenly found yourself in front of all of these people and you were very introverted. So I'm just leading up to the example that I've given here. But those are the kind of contexts in which this can become a very natural part of what you're saying. For example, I had a hard time making friends, especially because I'm highly introverted, but I realized that inviting everyone to a party was the best way to break the ice. Now, over here, break the ice is just casually dropped in there. You could say it was the best way to get to know people or make new friends, right? You can easily replace this idiom with any of these phrases or more. That is why this doesn't stick out oddly over here as well, because it's easily replaceable by both of these phrases that are natural ways of ending the sentence. But instead of doing that, we saw a good opportunity where we could make use of an idiom, and we did. Now here, everyone to a party was the best way to break the ice. We've used best way to also describe break the ice. So it becomes a very natural part, almost like, a limb of the sentence, not an adornment. So a lot of times idioms are added later as adornments. Like maybe you're all dressed for the day and you decide, okay, I should wear this hat because it makes me look nice. Idioms are added later as an afterthought, like a hat. But in reality, idioms should be like your shirt or your pants. Okay, I've stretched this metaphor too far, but you get what I'm saying, right? It should be the basic building block of what you're saying instead of something that's added later for effect. That's the best way of using idioms naturally. Next, we have hit the nail on the head. Very easy to incorporate this naturally. It doesn't sound odd, means to be exactly right. You can say this to someone, you've hit the nail on the head, or whenever you're talking about something else, you can use this idiom as well, like it's been done here. I think the article, now you're talking about an article that was written, the article hit the nail on the head. So now you're not saying I hit the nail on the head, you hit the nail on the head, you're talking about some third thing, which is an article, and then you go on to explain why. Hit the nail on the head, bringing out the real reasons for increased crime in economically backward regions without blaming the marginalized population like most news reports do. Okay, so again here, you can replace this very easily. The article did a fantastic job, right? Or anything like that. But you saw the opportunity, it fit in well like a correct puzzle piece. And so you used hit in the head over here, hit the nail in the head here. Now, a side thing that I would usually tell people learning English is to kind of research the etymology of these idioms. Some of them are very interesting, but you can do that if you have the time for it. I know you're preparing for tests, so you're already stressed out, but some of these have very interesting origin stories, and that's always a fun thing to do. Next, we have in hot water, which means in trouble. Okay, here last semester I slacked off on an important project and landed myself in hot water with the professor. So now another thing that you need to focus on while using idioms is what comes before and after it. Sometimes we know the idiom, but we don't know how to fit it into a sentence. We don't know what part of speech it sort of behaves like. So here, landed myself in hot water, was in hot water, will be in hot water if, okay, and here with the professor. So there are many different ways of leading up to the idiom and continuing from the idiom. And the best way to understand how to use an idiom correctly, very short, easy way, is to use AI. So go to any, whatever you use, probably ChatGPT. Go to ChatGPT, plug in the idiom, give the idiom, and in the prompt, ask ChatGPT to give you at least 10 examples of that idiom being used in speech. Make sure you specifically tell ChatGPT to use real life examples, maybe from printed interviews or any other resources that it can find online. And also the idioms need to be used in a variety of ways. So different tenses, different contexts, it should be broken up in different ways. All right. So when you ask for 10 different examples, go through those examples. That's when you can really understand different ways in which one idiom can be used and start incorporating it into your speech naturally. Okay. Make smart use of AI, guys. All right. So here I landed myself in hot water with a professor. He had high hopes from me and I let him down. I felt really guilty and decided to redo the whole thing. Next, we have the ball is in your court. Again, very commonly used, means it's your turn to take action. So listen to this answer and pay attention to how this has been used. One way I've learned to deal with my anxiety is to only focus on things that I can control. If I've done all that I can and the ball is no longer in my court. So now you see that the idiom hasn't been used exactly as stated here. We broke it up and we changed it a bit. We said the ball is no longer in your court. We added no longer in the middle to mean the opposite of this. So instead of saying the ball is in my court, I can also say the ball is no longer in my court to mean that I've done all that I can. There's nothing left for me to do. So there are ways to play around with idioms as well, and native speakers generally do that. If you read an idiom and if you use it exactly as it's written, chances are you are not a native speaker because you haven't seen the variations and the ways in which you can play with these different idioms. So being able to make these changes so that the idiom can adapt to your sentence, instead of adapting what you're saying so that the idiom can fit in, you change the idiom and make it fit. That's a skill that native fluent English speakers have, and if you are able to develop that, then chances are that you will get a higher band. So here the ball is no longer in my court. I stopped thinking about the outcome. All right. Next, we have every cloud has a silver lining. Another example of an idiom that shouldn't be used as it is. Every cloud has a silver lining. If you say it exactly like that, it will just come off as memorized and cliche. It's not going to sound natural. It's going to stick out. It's going to get the examiner's attention, and the examiner is going to think you memorize this and you force fit it into your answer on purpose. A natural way of using this idiom, which means when something good comes out of a bad situation, is as follows. Pay attention. I was stuck at home and couldn't go back to campus due to the pandemic, which was disappointing. But the silver lining was that I got to spend more time with my family and sort out some of the issues we'd brushed under the carpet. Bonus extra idiom. Okay, so here we did not say, but every cloud has a silver lining. And in this case, we don't have to say that. We don't have to use the entire idiom. Just say the silver lining was that there was a silver lining. The silver lining was that. Okay, so just using silver lining will suffice when it comes to this idiom. Next, we have to pull someone's leg, which means to tease or joke. Okay, this can be done in good humor. Again, another thing that you should be able to use in good humor. That means you did not have some kind of ill intent, and whatever you did was done playfully or jokingly. Okay, here is an example of this being used. Even though he said he was just pulling my leg, I found his remarks hurtful and decided to take a stand. Now here, to pull someone's leg obviously is not used as it is, and also we've changed the tense. So he was pulling my leg. He pulled my leg, past, was pulling my leg, continuous, and it's his habit. He has a habit of pulling my leg. That's also another way in which this can be used. Okay, so you can make these changes to indicate a continuous action versus a action that's completed in the past. You can change these idioms according to tense. You can break them down. You can add more information to them. You can delete certain words for them. Being able to mold idioms according to your needs, again, shows higher level of fluency. Next, we have cost an arm and a leg. Again, a leg related idiom. Here, it means something that's very expensive. So expensive to the point that you'd have to give an arm and a leg for it. I love photography, but the equipment costs an arm and a leg. So instead of saying, but the equipment is very expensive, you just said the equipment costs an arm and a leg. You did not build up to it. It's not about costing an arm and a leg. It's about the equipment. And here, you just casually thrown that in there instead of saying very expensive. So I've been saving up for months to buy a good camera. Okay. Another pro tip is when you do use an idiom, everything that you say around it can be a little more casual. So because you've just dropped an idiom over there, you don't have to use your most difficult vocabulary words as a follow-up. You can tone things down a little bit. Don't use very high level words and idioms together. Instead, try to find a balance so that these act as enhancements. Think of it like, adding, let's say, a precious stone to a ring. Okay, if you add way too many, nothing is going to stand out, which is why generally there's one thing on a ring, like a solitaire or a ruby or a sapphire. So think of every sentence like a ring. It needs to have that one precious stone. So if you think that a vocabulary word that you're using, like a very high level vocabulary word, that is your diamond, that is your sapphire, then let that be the highlight of the sentence. If you're using an idiom, let that be the highlight of the sentence. Don't cramp too many things together. It's just going to make a very ugly ring. Okay. All right. Next, we have once in a blue moon. Again, quite commonly used. Means rarely. And here, I have a moderately healthy diet, but once in a blue moon, I'll indulge in the most unhealthy, greasy, and cheesy fast food that I can find that acts as a reward for being good most of the time. So when I'm saying these, the idiom does not stand out at all, and that's a great thing, okay? Because Obviously, it stands out to the examiner from a fluency point of view, but I'm saying it's not something that sounds suddenly odd. That's the main intent of making this video, that a lot of times you guys use idioms, they just end up sounding extremely odd. The sample answers are to help you understand how they can be a part of your speech. Again, a reminder to use AI for this purpose. Plug in an idiom, ask it to give you 10 different examples of it being used, real life examples, and also examples in different contexts, and truly understand how to make idioms a part of your vocabulary. And lastly, we have bite the bullet, which means to finally do something difficult. Focus on finally. So it's something that you've been contemplating but not doing because it's difficult, and then you finally decide that, okay, you know what? I just have to do it. So here's an example. Public speaking makes me incredibly nervous, but I finally bit the bullet and signed up for a debate competition to challenge myself. I did not expect that to be the game changer for my college application. So here, bit the bullet is being used, not bite the bullet, because what have we done? We've changed the tense of the idiom to fit our story. We are talking about something that happened in the past, so we had to change the tense of the idiom to make sure it reflects the same. Now, all of these answers that I've given you, or these examples that I've given you, they're part of sample answers from the actual IELTS test. So, all of these can be potential answers for different topics and different questions from the IELTS speaking test, so that you can understand idioms in context of the IELTS. I want you to practice the same. So, pick up all of these idioms, try to weave a story around them, keeping the kind of questions that are asked in IELTS in mind. Another thing that you really need to do is the whole AI thing that I explained. Please do that, and you can easily make idioms a game changer for your IELTS test. All right, that brings me to the end of today's session. Hope that was useful for you. Okay, and the only way things can actually be fully useful is that if you apply whatever I have taught you, and application will happen through homework that I am looking forward to seeing in the comments. So pick one or two of your favorite idioms from this and give me a natural way of using them in the comments. Make sure you're not cheating. Don't use AI generated answers. And if you're finding these videos useful and helpful, then please do consider subscribing to the channel. There's a lot more content that you can find. Go check it out. And then once you've made sure that everything here is of value to you, then make sure you subscribe. Also follow us on our socials. All of these videos will really help you out. I guarantee you that. I've spent a lot of time researching, understanding, figuring out the pain points of people trying to do well in the IELTS and finding actual solves for these pain points. So what I'm teaching you is not generic. Obviously, we do the whole generic live solving of IELTS, mock tests, etc. But these videos are really what sets apart the way I teach from any other content that you can find online, because I really know where a lot of you are struggling and I aim to fix just that. So please do subscribe, share with your friends, like the video if you found it helpful, and I will see you next time. Till then, take care. Bye-bye.